2026, the crown room will remain a space for honesty, a space where crowns are adjusted and where faith will meet real life. You don't have to have it all together to show up. May this year be a reminder that rest is still holy, growth can be quiet, and God is still near even in the pauses. Here's to a grounded, grace-filled, God-led 2026.
You show me. Welcome back. Happy New Year from the crown room to you. Let it be a year where you're gentle, where you're kind towards yourself and others, where you are extending grace towards yourself so that you're able to extend grace towards others. Let the work begin within yourself because charity begins at home. And where else is home than besides yourself? Then we can spread it throughout the nation. Um, you know, I was prepping the episode and actually, I started thinking, Guti, no, let's talk about resolutions. Let's talk about, hey, my plan for 2026 is, I want more money. My plans for 2026, I want to lose weight. I want to gain weight. I want to gain complexion. I want to, but I was like, that is not me. That is not who I am. That is not where I am. So, how can I just drop everything and just start over and just start over? I can't start over without actually addressing everything that didn't necessarily go according to, how I wished. So today, I'm not talking about New Year's resolutions. I'm not talking about, hey, when productivity, I'm not talking about being performative. I'm not going to talk about um, bucket list. When you name it, put it on the list. We're not here for that because for some, if not most of us, we are still dealing with what the previous year put us through, right? And I want us to talk about that so that we can enter the year with honestly, with honesty, with gentleness, and just as we are, right? So if you are numb, if you're hopeful, if you're tired, December was hey. The previous year was hey. The last quarter was hey. It was, this is where you belong. So I journaled. I journal now. I advocate for that. I just need to have my thoughts down so that you get me. Let's talk about that. You know, let's talk about how loud January is. Let's talk about how the most pressured months is December and January. In December, it's that time of the year where we're sitting down now, we're reflecting on what did I achieve on my bucket list? What did I achieve on my vision board? Did I do this? Didn't I do that? Did I finish what I said I wanted to do? Some of us wanted to maybe save a certain portion of money, and you go to your bank account and there's nothing. Some of us expected ourselves to be at a certain point in terms of faith wise. You expected to still be on fire. And if you haven't watched my previous episode, I was talking about faith fatigue and how difficult the journey is navigating through it because we start off the year on a really high note. This is the time where we reset basically, and you're going to devote yourself to the word, to going to church, to doing this, to doing that. Life happens, and you just don't know what to do anymore. You go down a slippery slope. If we don't address this, it's going to become a constant cycle. We start off the year on a high, we end it on a low. We start off the year on a high, we end on a low, right? So now this is the depressive episode that we're in December, and we don't really have much time because we're on vacation. We're busy. It's family time. We're cooking for Christmas. We're preparing for this. We're preparing for that. We're preparing for that. And in no time, it's the 31st, right? Now you go to your phone. Obviously, you're going to put together the memories that you made during the year. But there's that time where you actually sit down and you're like, damn, but I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. What am I going to do now? And it's one day, 24 hours away from the new year, right? We don't know what to do. Sana, growing up, I've always carried this mentality, Yahore, like every time there's a new year, right? I've always thought that we have to drop everything that happened um the previous year and we're starting over. That's the noise that comes with January. You open social media, everyone is posting, yeah, 75 hard. Everyone is now, starting with the gym, preparing for marathons or preparing for this, preparing for work, preparing for that. You know, prepare like posting their vision boards. They spend time doing their vision boards. They spend time doing this and that. But some of us were not there. I don't know if I'm speaking for myself. I didn't wake up on January the 1st and came with clarity. I still have questions on certain things that happened the previous year. I'm still tired from the hardships that I experienced, how much I've put and how much I've received. I'm still reflecting. So, why are we rushing to start over, to reset, to plan the new year if we haven't addressed what happened in the previous year? I haven't achieved this, so I can't drop this project just because the new year started, right? And I feel as though that life will always life, and that is what I am in a space of right now, accepting that life will life. Because one thing about it is that I need to be honest. I need to be honest that whatever it is, I don't want to name it delusion, I don't want to name it whatever, but whatever it is that makes me think that if I say 2026 is going to be my year, everything is going to go smoothly, because now I'm in this mentality where I'm not prepared for the lows. I'm only hyped up for the highs. I'm not prepared for the lows. And that is what happens when I go into faith fatigue, or just fatigue in general, not even just faith fatigue, spiritual fatigue, mental fatigue, emotional fatigue, when I'm not prepared for the lows. I haven't really fixed, you know, I haven't really dealt with whatever it is that I went through last year. I just brushed it under the carpet. I'm waking up and I'm starting over. But honestly, growing up, I have this clarity, Yahore. There's nothing new under the sun. That is what also King Solomon says, that in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, when he says there's a time for everything, time for crying, time to be happy, time to be this, time to be that. He basically says there's nothing new under the sun. Maybe I should whip it out. I genuinely said, like, I am not going to um dwell that much on scripture, but I do love referencing scripture. He says in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 that there's nothing new under the sun. So in chapter 15, he says, what is happening now has happened before, and what will happen in the future has happened before, because God makes the same things happen over and over again. And that makes me realize this constant cycle that I put myself in, where when the clock strikes January 1st, New Year, I'm dropping everything, I'm starting over, is actually not me being realistic, right? Because every other thing that happened in the previous years that I didn't deal with comes back to haunt me at a certain point, at a certain time. The conflicts that I faced with people, the altercations that I had with people, my state of relationships with everyone in my life, my faith life, everything life. It's nice to feel hyped up, but you're gonna personally, I'm gonna crash out. I woke up the same. I realized the sun still sets in the same direction, still rises in the same direction. It's just a number that changed on the calendar. So I said to myself, I'm starting this year with honesty, with gentleness, and as I am. So if you are also in that space, it's okay. Let's go through this together, Chumi. Let's not rush into anything. Let's just be gentle. Let's pace ourselves. Let's heal so that we can live our lives the way we're meant to, so that we can maximize our potential. Let's not be performative. Let's not feel like we're left behind because it seems as though people have their lives figured out. When you go on social media, Hey, someone's savings plans is already on 100K and when you're on zero because you didn't necessarily manage your finances correctly. Now, how are you starting over by saying, yeah, no, I'm starting now in January saving, when you should be reflecting on what actually made you not save money properly last year? You know, let's talk about that. So I was journaling, I was journaling. I am an advocate for journaling. If there's one thing that I want to advocate for this year, it's journaling. I've never been a person that journaled. Um I've always just done put things in my head. I've never been a vision board person. I've spoken about this on one of the prompts that I posted on Instagram, where I was asking Guti, what is it that I don't remember the prompt verbatim, but I remember my response being, I've never been a person who had a vision board. I've never been a person who had short term, medium term, long term goals. I do have a vision of where I see myself, but I never had that vision, Yahore. In these next 5 years, I'm building this, I'm building that, I'm building this, I'm building that. And now I just thought, actually, I need to put these things down so that I can remember every day when I wake up. Let me go back to what I wrote down and so that I can remember. I must stop thinking, hey, I have a photographic memory, so I will remember, right? The first thing I need us to talk about is naming the pressure of January. We need to name the pressure of January. Okay, not my light going off. My gosh, we need to name the pressure of January. Let's be honest about how January will pressure you into a space that you don't even belong, right? Let's be ourselves for once. Be yourself for once. Be where you are, right? The second thing I want us to do is ask ourselves. This is a question that I asked myself, and this is a question I want you to ask yourself. Where are you really? Where am I really right now in this space and time? Where am I emotionally? Where am I spiritually? Where am I mentally? Where am I in terms of life? I want I did write down a few questions for us to journal about. I will put that at the end of the episode. We'll come back next week and we'll just go through. I'll go through my answers. You don't have to give me your answers, but it would really be helpful to see that I'm not the only one that goes through this. There are plenty other people that goes through this, right? Oh, let's start living a life without performance. That's the next point that I wrote in my journal. Living a life without performance. I know that we're at that age, most of us are at that age where we start being comparative, that I'm in my 20s now, I should be married, I should be in a committed relationship, I should be starting to have kids now, I should be working now, I should be here, I should be there. Oh, look, my age mate or someone younger than me achieved this. I'm not even there yet. Oh, look, Usman Bani has this. I don't have this. Because that really makes you have a toxic relationship with yourself, right? Let's just stop being performative. That was the word of, I think it was the first or the second episode that I had with the ladies, where we were talking about what being performative looks like. And during the course of the year, we are going to go more in depth about that. But let's just stop living a life that's performative. Let's live a life that is more honest to yourself, because I feel that honesty is the first act of faith, living in truth, so that you can be truthful to yourself, so that you can be truthful to those around you. Let's start the work within. So instead of gaslighting yourself, instead of manipulating yourself for the things that you haven't achieved yet, instead of comparing timelines. I mean, I was also in a season of my life where I was comparing timelines in terms of when I stay behind, and my age mates progress, I start feeling like, yeah, life is against me. And a few years later, I realized, no, the setback was actually a setback for something greater, right? So every time there's a setback in my life, I actually go back, introspect on that, and try to figure out, what does this actually mean? Did this happen intentionally, or is this for a greater purpose? Because honestly, the only thing that kept me going in those seasons was me saying to myself, God works everything together, everything, whether it's something that He planned or not, He will work it in your favor to benefit you, to benefit your life and those around you, right? So, my point is, let's just stop being performative. Be where you are. Ask God to meet you where you are. Meet yourself where you are. Let your community meet you where you are, right? If you're in a season of still recovering from, if you're still grieving, I mean, grief doesn't have a timeline, it comes any time and day. You're in a season of grieving, whatever. I feel that we categorize grief as losing a loved one, but we can also look at grieving in the sense of the things that you haven't achieved at the age you are, the things that you haven't achieved on your vision board, the things that you haven't reached, the things you haven't done, right? I would be grieving, for an example, the many projects I said I'm going to be doing, the many websites, if you know my profession, the many websites I said I'm going to do, the many, things that I said I'm going to do in terms of advancing my career, the many courses that I said I'm going to do. I would even go to the extent of actually signing up for that course, paying for it, so that it makes me feel like, you know what, I'm not going to waste money because I already signed up. A few months later, I'm not there, right? And I don't necessarily have all the answers. I'm just saying, let's be honest about where we are and what we need to do, right? The next point I wrote is releasing the need to start strong. I feel like I've already emphasized on the fact that everyone is starting strong, but you know, in the middle of or towards the end of the year, we start saying, yeah, hey, yeah, and fatigue, I'll try again. Yeah, hey, you know, this thing, this posting what's it? Yes, start fatigue. I'm like, yeah, Zini. Yes, start fatigue. Yeah, middle fatigue. Yeah, and fatigue. Izophela nini le fatigue. And when I posted that, one of my sisters, I was on a call with her and she said to me, what also matters in life is how you speak on your daily life, on your daily basis. How do you steward your day, right? How do you start your day? How do you what do you speak into existence about your day, about tomorrow, about, for an example, I have this thing of posting memes the day before work or in the morning as I'm going to work. Yo, I'm going there, I'm going there, I'm going there. I don't necessarily consider the effects that could have, but I'm speaking exhaustion into experience, into existence. Sorry. I am speaking fatigue into existence. I am speaking negative energy into my day, right? I think that's where you start. You are honest about where you are, and we start reforming our minds. As a man thinketh, so is he. Power is in your tongue, power is in your mind. And that is why I just want us to focus on resetting our minds. The next point that I made is an invitation to you, to your loved ones. Let's start journaling. If it's by yourself, I'll be here. We'll be journaling together. You can journal with your friends, you can journal with your loved ones. Don't be hard on yourself. Ask yourselves the important questions. I don't have all the questions. Okay, I'm just giving questions that I ask myself. Instead of asking myself, what do I need to fix? I ask myself, what am I carrying? What have I been carrying for the past years that I haven't actually addressed, that I haven't actually dealt with? It's so easy for me to start the year and say, I'm going to be more firm on my boundaries. I'm going to be, yeah, I want peace. All I want is joy. But how do I steward that on a daily basis? What do I do to steward it well? To start putting these boundaries. If I didn't put boundaries last year, I'm not saying if I didn't put boundaries last year, it's the same song that I'm singing every year at the beginning of the year, but I lose track of it during the year, right? What patterns do I need to get into that starts enacting these boundaries that I'm saying that I'm putting, that starts putting this joy that I'm seeking, that starts putting this peace that I'm seeking. For most of us, it looks like we want to cut people off, right? I, for one, have always been that type of person. I always thought that, no, man, my life is not going well because I am associated with this person. I think it's time to be honest. Let's start at home. Like I said in the beginning, let's start at home. What is it that I'm not doing right? Right? What is it that I need to? What am I carrying? What am I carrying that attracts these people, that actually pushes me to the need of putting boundaries? What am I carrying that attracts these people that actually takes out characteristics that I don't like out of me? What are you carrying? What are you carrying through me? The wool is back. Joking. The next question that I have was, what should, instead of asking yourself, what should I become this year? Ask yourself, who am I right now and what do I need? Those are the questions. Write it down. I wrote paragraphs on. I listed the things that I wish could have went right in the previous years. I listed the things that I've been carrying. I listed all of those things, and then I started asking myself, because of this, what were the consequences? Right? That was the next point of my journal. What are the consequences? Um, you know, yeah. Um, I don't remember what I also wrote in my journal. I have a lot of journals. I also wrote, what does the word say about this? And I started looking for scriptures that relates to this. I also started looking for characters who relate to whatever it is that I'm going through, right? Because King Solomon does say, everyone else has been through this in the past years. You're not the first person. You won't be the last person. The sun will still set and someone else will go through what you experienced. So, yeah, the next other questions, ne? Um, where are these questions? So this is the first week's journaling, right? What am I carrying? What am I carrying into this year that I never had space to put down last year? Who am I right now? What do I need? Where in my life am I performing strength instead of allowing honesty? What expectations from myself or others feel heavy right now? What does my body need more of in this season? Is it rest, clarity, gentleness, or space? If I allowed myself to arrive without pressure, what would that look like? What would it sound like to meet God exactly where I am without explanations or solutions? And the last one is, what am I afraid might happen if I stop pretending that I am okay? I'm not saying, and I'm not insinuating, and I'm not assuming that the life you're living is performative. I'm not anyway accusing you of pretending. I'm accusing myself because I haven't been completely honest about where I am, who I am, what I need, what I'm carrying, what I need to let go of. So this is for me, but I'm just putting it out there in case you also need it, in case you also realize that you haven't been completely honest with yourself. Let's journey through this together. I'll come back next week. During the week as well, please stay tuned into Instagram. It's the Crown Room. Please just stay tuned in Instagram. I'll be posting prompts every day, and let's just take it from there on. It's gonna be a very long January financially wise as well. Because January is here. Hey, God forbid. Now I'm speaking into existence. It's not going to be a long January, but it's going to be a graceful January. Let us be graceful towards ourselves. Let us reflect. Let us take time in reflecting. Let us just take time in healing, in finding ourselves, in being ourselves. I will see you next week, Chomi. I promise there will be better lighting. Oh, there will be better lighting. Um, Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you so much. Please don't forget to like, to share, to comment. Guys, I'm still asking you to comment, to leave comments about who are you? You know? Thank you for tuning in. From me to you, from the crown room. I love you. I will see you in the next episode.